Today we have myself, Matthew White. I'm an Ingram Micro Business Transformation Center engineer. I work here at the Buffalo office, and I focus on Cisco collaboration. I also have Chris Heinrich, a technical consultant for Cisco collaboration. Tom Mann's joining us. He's the Business Transformation Center engineer for Cisco Security. Dan Stewart, who's the Business Transformation Center engineer for Meraki and Enterprise. Bobby Young, who is a technical consultant for Cisco Enterprise Networking, including Meraki. Andrew Schmidt, who's a generalist engineer for the Business Transformation Center who focuses on healthcare. And Bonnie Duncan should be joining us a little bit later, and she's going to talk a little bit about some of the financial and technology as a service offerings that Ingram Micro can help with as well. So let me just throw some facts at you here to begin with. So working from home as of the end of 2018 was 3.5% of the global workforce worked from home on a regular basis. That was over 5 million people, and that was back in 2018. In 2019, they did a survey, and 80% of employees surveys want to work from home at least some of the time. I know a lot of people are running into stress right now and things like that because they have a lot of people at home with them. But in a normal environment, those people might not be there with them and causing distractions and things like that. So in the normal case, a lot of these people do really prefer the work from home scenario. And as far as from the collab side, Cisco itself has seen a huge uptick in use case just in this last month. I mean, just in this particular month, there was 5 billion minutes of meetings in March alone. So that's a huge uptick. And as far as like some people ask me, how do we pay for this stuff? And one of the things that I've recently noticed in the same survey, actually, the State of Work from 2019 and Owl Labs, they actually said that the people that they surveyed, a third of them would take a 5% pay cut or in exchange to be able to work from home. A quarter of them would take a 10% pay cut, and 20% would even take a greater pay cut to be able to work from home. So people are really wanting to work from home, and really it's the businesses are really getting pushed at this point in time to really be able to offer that where they might not have done that in the past. So as far as from the collab side of the house, personally, I've been seeing a lot of discussion happening around how do I get people up and running on persistent chat? How do I get them up and running in meetings? Pretty much all the collaboration tools that Cisco offers, and there's a lot of them. One of the things I really think is missing from a lot of the discussion is that piece for IT to be able to help with people that are now working from home. So one of the things I've noticed is that you've got all these laptops out there, desktops, just people are now having to work from home, and a lot of people aren't real IT savvy. So they're running into issues. Now, IT in the past might be able to walk over to someone's PC if they're in the office and help them with that stuff. But when they're at home, that makes that job a little bit more difficult. And Cisco does actually offer a piece of software that helps with that so that they can do a work from home in a much better way. And really, what we're looking at there is the Webex support, which is one of the great other offerings that Cisco has in their portfolio of Webex products. So pretty much as far as the security piece and being able to do that secure, there's a lot of other options out there that do allow for that, being able to tie into people's PCs and being able to remotely manage them and remote desktop type stuff. But a lot of those options out there aren't secure. And one of the things that I've been noticing is security is a huge issue nowadays. And especially with this work from home scenario, there's a lot of additional security things that have been popping up for people. Now, Tom Mann, who's our security expert, I'd like to ask you a few questions. What type of security issues are you seeing currently out there in the marketplace right now?
The biggest things I've seen is the ability to actually trust that our users' devices are secure. So that could be from malware, that could be policy, it could be a lot of things. It's really about that trust. And there's a lot of different solutions we can do to work with that. Now, it's our devices, but those devices are trying to remotely access either data that's back at our office or business applications back in the office or in the cloud, wherever they might be. And then it's all about the trust that we can access those devices securely. And then there's certain Cisco solutions I could talk about on those, which I dive into right now. So basically, if I'm worried about securely getting to my business applications, getting back to my network. One of the things is, can I trust who the user is and is their device secure? So a big product we have from Cisco, fairly new to Ingram Micro, is Cisco Duo. And Cisco Duo really is all about providing that trust. It provides a multi-factor authentication for our devices and our users. And that could be used when VPNing in, when hitting web applications. Those could be applications in the cloud or back at our company, wherever they might be. It goes farther than that, though. It allows me to get device visibility just from Duo. I can see what hardware it is, how old it is that hardware up to date, is it jailbroken or rooted, and even is the software up to date, and it gives me the ability to self-remediate. So there's a lot of nice capabilities in Cisco Duo. And a lot of people don't know about it. It's a very popular and easy to use multi-factor authentication suite, actually. That's the first thing, would be to secure that access and the trust in the device and the user. However, I can't fully trust the device unless I know the device itself is secure. And that really comes into some other packages. One is Cisco Umbrella. So Cisco Umbrella really helps provide protection for all of our client devices by not allowing users to go to bad websites, plus giving us control of those websites if they're based on categories. So are we going to, what style of websites? And in addition to web content and URL, the ability to get visibility and control over web applications even. So all this could be done from a simple, easy to use web interface for an administrator. And it's seamless to the end user. They just don't go to the bad sites or the sites you don't want them to go to, which stops us from getting a lot of bad content. It also reduces on phishing because I can't go to the bad sites where phishing sites are directing me to phishing URLs. So that's the one piece, the Cisco Umbrella, for that client protection, protecting stuff getting to the client, no matter where they are. The other one is AMP for Endpoints. AMP for Endpoints is a full endpoint protection product and an endpoint detection and response product from Cisco. There's a slight difference between each of those. Endpoint detection and response is a more modern approach that gives you all the maximum modern protections, but also huge remediation and threat hunting capability all built in. So this could really lock down that device from getting malware, detecting malware, and finding it if it does come in somehow. Combined with Umbrella, so you can't get to the bad sites, and then combined with Duo, so we could truly trust those users and devices, getting to our applications or data wherever it is. Those are the three big things I'd recommend first, when it comes to Cisco.
Now, as far as having that type of stuff, I know like my wife currently works in healthcare, and she has a lot of issues when it comes to really making sure that everything is in compliance. So her company has to make sure that everything she's doing is to the way that healthcare standards are set, and they're pretty high. Andy, I know that you focus mostly on healthcare. What is the compliance issue that you're seeing from all this? Are you noticing a lot more people asking about compliance? What type of things should resellers really be looking at or asking their customers when they are selling into the healthcare space?
Healthcare is very interesting. I usually talk about it in the broader term of highly regulated industries. So that's obviously healthcare. It's going to include things like finance, et cetera. And really what a lot of it is going to be from where in the regular corporate world, okay, so where we don't have the very onerous regulations, we know that we're cutting some corners in some places right now. You just do not want to do that in things like healthcare and finance where you've got those kind of regulations. And so really what you really need to look at doing is that is part of the decision of what you can and can't do. Okay, so there may be things that you might just not be able to do, or you're going to have to look very careful about how you deliver. Okay, so where, opening up a VPN we might think is fine for the average corporate worker. We may have additional concerns when we get into highly compliant industries. The conversation comes up, and I'm sure you've come across this one, Matt, from the standpoint of video conferencing. Okay, is a video conferencing solution HIPAA compliant? Is one of the most impossible questions to ask or to answer, because it can't even. Usually, the answer is, well, if it's deployed in a compliant manner, you can't even do that, right? Because it's literally who is on the call, is there people in earshot, et cetera, et cetera. So it's really, we've got to take a deeper approach. We've got to look at all of the potential points. We may have to, like I said, we may have to make decisions about what you can and can't do. And I really think that's one of the long-term outcomes is we're going to start not looking at, you know, users and systems holistically, but looking much more task-oriented. So start looking, you know, kind of activity by activity, app by app, what users are doing, how they need to address it, and maybe look at the best access solution for a task. So you might be able to do certain things this way, but if you need to do that, you might even have to go and close out other applications just to access this, you know, one specific application. You know, obviously the risks are greater. Anytime that you know that there's going to be emergency messaging going out there, you know that people are going to take advantage of it. And, you know, so you got to watch for things like phishing. You've got to watch for, you know, all of those tools that people are going to hear about from people that may or may not, you know, compromise the security on a client device, especially if it's not, you know, fully owned and managed asset. But, you know, again, you train users. You've got to watch for that kind of stuff. But, you know, realistically, a lot of times you need to do something more than just say, hey, be careful.
So people are trying to be careful out there, and say they're doing telemedicine or they're doing something else. Is that a issue when they're trying to send emails out to people to say, hey, join this particular teleconference and get on a call with me about healthcare? And what do we worry about when it comes to people getting those emails that may be fraudulent? And how do we really understand when those are, when those aren't? Bobby, I know you have a like a history in like phishing and understanding and the stuff that Ingram Micro can maybe help with as far as that's concerned to really be able to make sure that companies are keeping that stuff secure. So when they're getting internal conversations going or internal discussions going about stuff, that they're not having their employees fall prey to that kind of thing.
Yeah, we definitely have some professional services at Ingram Micro that handle that kind of, you know, really the user error side of it. Because when it comes down to it, we could, you know, help a partner get as much as they can set up from a hardware perspective, from a cloud perspective, from a software perspective. But really, unless there's the proper training and unless you're monitoring those people using those tools, then, you know, it's all for naught. Especially in an environment like this where we have people working from home, you have an issue where a lot of the reasons people got into the office space in, you know, a lot of the reasons we had kind of a physical office space was to kind of keep track on people from a management perspective, you know, being able to collaborate with one another. That used to be the place where all of my stuff was to be able to do my job. But really, when you look at those three things, you know, the ability to do my job is now mobile, so anywhere in the world. The collaboration piece, we've really kind of covered or, you know, talked about a little bit. We're doing it right now. I mean, being able to collaborate, sometimes we almost have too many tools. And then from a management perspective, being able to, you know, kind of keep an eye and track of what your employees are actually doing. It's kind of that third piece. So that's where that training comes in. That's where we have tools and professional services that can monitor those emails. Even within our own company at Ingram Micro, we actually utilize a tool that allows us to monitoring phishing attacks through our email. In fact, we actually, I think it was maybe if somebody can keep me honest on this, maybe day 2 of this lockdown that we had internally, we actually had that team test our own employees out with a kind of a phishing response, basically from the World Health Organization, saying, "Hey, please click on this link to, to comply with this whatever." And then, we could either there's in our Outlook, we have a little thing that pops up that we basically just push that button if it looks like spam. I'd be interested to see how many of our employees actually clicked on that, and I guarantee within the next days, weeks, months. I mean, even this morning, I got something in my email from a kind of a storefront offering really good prices on, everything from hand sanitizer to toilet paper. So in these times, you're going to see lots of opportunity for people that are used to giving out these attacks that are going to try to take opportunity of it. So with the tools that we have at Ingram Micro, we can basically take those professional services, go on your behalf and offer those to your end users to be able to kind of train them through and really make them understand the importance of what to click, what not to click, and really how to use those tools that we're boasting today.
I wanted to chime in too. In addition to all those tools, the anti-phishing campaigns and things like that, Cisco does also offer an email security package, which is an email security gateway solution. It could be run on-prem or in the cloud, and that also is an excellent idea to actually secure your email system. And that's something we could talk about more. I do demonstrations on it occasionally. So we didn't want to have too many topics for the day, but that's another one that you could add to your quiver of arrows, basically, is email security products.
I know on the collaboration side, I'm getting people using collaboration tools like Webex Teams and persistent chat and that kind of stuff. And you can also send files that way too. And there's a potential option for people to send infected malware through that interface as well. And I know Cisco has pretty much the Cisco Cloud Lock for that application. It's called Advanced Security Pack for collaboration. And that will then kind of secure that avenue of attack as well. So that way all those things are scanned before they even get through to the other person. Make sure that that's not going through. As far as like Webex Teams and meetings and all those other things, obviously collaboration is going to be a big piece to this whole puzzle. I mean, we have Support Center, which I mentioned a little bit earlier. We have Webex events, which we're on right now. I mean, this allows us to have these type of larger conversations with a lot of people and really keep it locked down so that way we're not having people jump in or interject in the middle of our conversation, that kind of stuff, but we can still have those Q&A, question and answer type stuff happening on the left-hand side or the right-hand side. And we have other pieces as well. So, I mean, right now I'm on a Cisco headset. This helps to block out a lot of the background noise that we have in environments, either a dog that might be a little too rambunctious going on in the back, or maybe it's a child that's asking for your help for whatever, but they don't have to actually come through on your audio. And it keeps you kind of isolated a little bit from all that other distractions that might be happening around you. And Webex calling is a big one that I've been having a lot of conversations around recently, which is the cloud calling piece of Cisco. So a lot of those people now working from home still have to really keep communicating and keep in touch with everybody around them, not only through your video conferencing and stuff like that, but also through their standard calling. And they might not be on premise anymore, but they still have to be able to make those connections and use their phone like they would normally. That's something that really, to do that, you have to spin up this like cloud-based calling solution to allow for that, or at least a hybrid solution. I know that a couple of the people here are using webcams on their computer. We also have things like the DX80 and Desk Pro. Chris is actually using one of those today, so he's there on video. If you want to talk a little bit about that, Chris.
So yeah, I'm on one of those DX80 devices. I've had it, been gifted to have this for a few years now. I've been supporting collaboration for almost 9 years. And this device is really a game changer, especially for home offices and desk users. It can act as a second monitor. It's obviously a really good full HD webcam type solution. It is touchscreen. And if you're using it with the Teams application, it actually can contribute and be part of the whiteboarding sessions that you can do through that application as well, so you can draw it. I have a 4-year-old, and when I'm not busy, which hasn't been the last few weeks, she'll sit up alongside of me and actually color on the whiteboarding session while I'm doing some work. So it can be a multi-purpose tool for that matter as well. But Matt, you brought up a good point earlier. So what I found and come to realization is a lot of users that may or may not have Webex don't realize that Webex is not just a meeting tool. A lot of customers and a lot of users use Webex in the form of Webex Meeting Center to have virtual meetings, right? And we're all used to, and some people are not, and getting accustomed to doing video communication. So turning on the webcams, using video devices to communicate, sharing information, sharing content, and in recording stuff, right? And that's part of the real core functionality of Meeting Center. And what I've come to realize over this past few weeks is a lot of organizations don't know or don't understand that Cisco also has 3 additional centers that come in a Webex suite. And those centers are Event Center, like the solution that we're on today. And that's really designed around real large webinar events. And in the use case of in today's world, some organizations may need to have all hands meetings, whether they may be weekly, bi-weekly, monthly. And a typical Meeting Center solution only supports up to 1,000 people. So if an organization has more than that, and they need more participants to join, Event Center can scale up to 3,000 people. And Cisco has actually announced some messaging around the crisis that's going on today, where they'll actually turn on that capability free of charge for customers if they need that capability. The other 2 centers are Support Center and Training Center. So Support Center has become a hot ticketed item for IT consultants and IT managers because now they need tools to support their remote workforce, right? And the key component of Support Center is the ability to do remote desktop login and remote session control. So they have the ability to communicate with their employees remotely through Webex Support Center, as well as do things that an IT person would need to do with that user to walk them through how to use tools or configure something correctly, etc. So that tool has become a big ask from a lot of customers today. And then last but not least is Training Center. And Training Center has also been highlighted, especially in the education space. As you know, a lot of schools in the nation have been closed, or at least closed for a certain amount of time. And Training Center is an application that could really help in the education space. Essentially, teachers can use the Training Center application to communicate with students. There can be breakout sessions if they have different courses and different classes they want to have all going on at the same time. And they also have the visibility on their students to make sure that they're paying attention and they're not goofing off. So Training Center has also been a hot ticketed item from customers that are not only using Webex today, but customers that are not familiar with the tools that need more information on those.
A little follow-up to that, Chris. I got to that my kid, without saying the names of the tools that they're using, their school district basically kind of rushed everything together. It took them a little bit of time, but they rushed everything together to try to get those tools, and they went with a secondary free option that's available right now. And the amount of the little amount of control that teacher has over that class is insane, because they're basically all on the same field, because it's a meeting space that basically is kind of set up for a bunch of adults. It's not meant for basically a one-to-many. And so I'm sitting there laughing as I'm trying to help him go through the, again, we've been doing this for a while, Chris, myself, a couple others on the calls. We've been remote for quite some time. This is a time when a lot of people, this is their first real, push into having a fully remote day. And from an education perspective, those teachers, they need a tool that they can basically get trained on and be able to control those classes. not even from a K through 12 space, but from colleges, from really any type of training opportunity. Those tools need to be there, because if you're basically not doing a one-to-many and you're just using some tool that is just kind of, everyone has the same, the same administrative rights, then you're going to have situations where it's going to take you 10 minutes in front of the class just to be able to try and mute everyone, because no one has that function to be able to do it. Let alone being able to record, being able to ask questions, being able to have some sort of Q&A or a chat session that's not just a free-for-all.
Very good point, Bobby. So the one thing that I'll add too, along with all the solutions that are coming through the Webex portfolio, Matt's going to provide a document to everybody that's on this webinar that will have a link to Cisco's response based on the COVID-19 piece. And there's been some significant things that Cisco is doing to assist customers with either getting Webex today free of charge, at least for a trial purpose, and then obviously the capabilities to turn that into paid subscriptions after that trial is over, but also the ability for customers that already have Webex today to rapidly increase the number of host licenses they may need, because obviously some organizations, may be using Webex or was using Webex in the past, and they just weren't licensed for the amount of remote workers that they need today, right? So obviously we've saw a huge amount of increase in that. So Cisco actually is allowing partners and organizations to go ahead and over provision their sites depending on which offers they have. It really doesn't matter. And they can turn on additional users free of charge. So they can let those users and encourage those users to use these collaboration tools.
And as part of that, I mean, there is a lot of people that I've been talking to that have been spinning up their own Webex accounts online. And as a reseller, that's something you really want to try to help them avoid. And one of the big reasons is because down the road, when they are switching into a paid account and stuff like that, that can cause a lot of hiccups along the way. So the best way to do this is really to spin up their free accounts or their trial accounts inside of your partner portal. So that way they can go through, and once they want to turn that into a paid account down the road, it's an easy switch, and it's very simple for them versus going through a lot of hoops to make that happen. And well, go ahead, Chris. You about to say something?
I was going to say one more thing. So doing collaboration for so long, I think one of the key struggle areas within the technology is the ability and the capabilities of adopting the technology, right? Users, it's hard to get people to use new tools on their desktop and use new collaboration tools. It's also equally as hard for a user to turn on their webcam. I know a lot of people that have camera covers that have tape across their webcam, or just don't turn their camera on at all. In these times, of course, I would encourage you to flip the camera on and obviously look like you're doing your job. Have a proper attire on, right? But turn that camera on. I mean, it makes the conversation that much more collaborative. It makes it that much more enjoyable. You can obviously see my facial expressions. You can see what's going on with me and how I'm interacting with all of you. And it's a lot more, much better experience than just talking to me over the phone, right? So if you are one of those users, I would encourage you to turn that camera on, smile, and communicate with your colleagues, with your customers, whoever it may be, via that video camera. Because what I think is what we're going to see people start to do that, and then everybody else is going to be like, yeah, I'm going to turn my camera on because everybody else has theirs on, right? So it's the wave of the future. It's what everybody wants, right?
Well, it's whether you look at it as the way of the future or not. This is going to go on for a while, So we aren't we're looking at things to get us by for a week or two, right? Personally, I think we're probably looking for the most of the first half of the year that we're going to be in some kind of remote work from home. And as I mentioned before, once people have started to do this, there's going to be a trend to keep wanting to do that. Matt, covered the numbers. That's always been there. We're seeing, a lot of places where, well, there's no way that kind of a worker could work from home. Yeah, they can in a lot of cases. So I think there's, this is not a once and done. This is get people introduced into the technologies, help them understand how they can benefit, help them understand how to get better at it. One of the things, you know, you heard a couple of, hey, you're muted. We're just so used to automatically putting ourselves on mute, sometimes forget to flip it back on. I know I've gotten caught by double muting, where I mute my audio device and I mute the meeting, and I've got caught with that one occasionally. But it's a lot better than having all that stuff going on in the background, those kind of things, and we'll get there. But you know, to that one-to-many comment, like whether you're using it for education or you know the town hall meeting in an organization, being able to have that control, who can speak, who can't. One of the things we always look at for event platforms is, you know, visibility of participants or not. Do you want to see that or not? And you got to go through all of that and help really determine what's the best platform.
So one of the things that I've ran into just earlier today was network connectivity. So personally setting up a Webex, and a network was dropping out of my laptop, but not out of other devices. But one of the things that we can do to help mitigate that is other avenues or other sources into that network or into the internet. And there's options out there from cellular connectivity to other options. And then there's even ways to get back into your corporate network. I know, Dan, you've mentioned before to me about being able to log in to the corporate network while you're offsite and be able to get at some of those resources that you still can utilize that may be on-site only. Dan, can you talk a little bit about that piece?
Yeah, no problem, Matt. So as we've seen from this conversation, it's a multi-layered approach. There's not just one application. There's not one thing that actually goes and solves all your teleworker needs. So the idea is to try to keep it as easy as possible. And Matt, you're spot on, right? So you want to access those work resources as easily as possible. And a lot of times companies will have associates with their own laptops, so you can take that home and they're already pre-configured, pre-provisioned for accessing those resources, and it's kind of set up and ready to go. But when you have instances where now this is a new situation where, hey, I maybe will have to use my own home PC, my own home devices. Well, how is something that's not corporate owned able to access corporate resources? And as we heard from Tom, we also want to then talk about how security plays into making sure those devices are on our networks as cleanly as possible. So a couple ways you can do that. So you have the idea of a virtual private network or a VPN. And from Cisco, you can do this in a couple different ways. You can use more of the enterprise products where you have a firewall or head-end device that is the connection source for all of the clients that want to gain access to the corporate resources remotely. And from a user standpoint, a lot of times you are able to have to install a client onto your PC. And that client is what establishes your connection to the right servers in the right place to get access to your resources as they need. Now, as an administrator, there's a lot of options we can do to make sure that your firewalls, one, have enough support for an influx of concurrently connected users that maybe we didn't prepare for in the first place. So instead of actually looking at another piece of physical hardware, we can look at deploying a virtual firewall or virtual VPN concentrator that allows us to scale our environments further for a workforce that now needs this on and always on connectivity back to our headquarters database of files and applications and spin that up in a piece of software. Or, you know, we can look at ways, and in a Cisco conversation here, we haven't talked about the, you know, great friend of Cisco, which is Meraki. Meraki is a place as a technology that Cisco owns where the ease of administration is pretty much what they're known for. So if you have environments where you've built out on a Meraki design and Meraki is your infrastructure, a Meraki product that exists that makes it easy to bring up remote sites into connecting a VPN back to the headquarters as easily as possible is from something they have as their teleworker gateway or now their Z3 model appliance. This takes a lot of the overhead out of the user's hands, where I would have to go as an IT admin, say, okay, here's how you access the right resource, here's how you will push down the VPN client to you and make sure the settings are set up and I have enough resources to do that. That can be a lot of time the IT has to spend, and maybe some confusion or concern from a home user trying to access the resources at ease. Whereas if we use a Meraki telepresence gateway, it's something that you can pre-provision and then take that appliance, looks like a small router, small device, 4 ports on it, and you just put that in the person's house, and that allows it to be, as soon as it's plugged in, connected to the internet, you now have it already pre-configured to establish that VPN tunnel, as well as providing home access as well for your own personal wireless home networks, and will have a separate connection automatically established to corporate resources. So you want to give that customer and your employees that ability to have options, right? So if you do a traditional Cisco play, we can run out any connect, and there's a lot of options we can do to help with that. Plus a lot of promotions that are coming out as well to extend either free licenses, license trials to ensure that we can give those connection points as easily as possible. Or again, if you are on the Meraki path, using a teleworker gateway is an easy way to bring those sites and now home offices into support for those environments. Another thing that I think we've kind of talked about, and Bobby mentioned in some of the school approach as it comes to devices being brought home from maybe school campuses, where maybe you're leased out a tablet or a laptop and you take that home on that day, or they send them to you or pick it up. There's a lot of packet pickups going on, and now you have this piece of hardware that was given to you from your corporation, your school, wherever, that you brought home. But how are those offices able to ensure that the device makes its way back, right? Was it lost? Was there something wrong with it? So again, talking from a Meraki standpoint, they have something called Meraki Systems Manager. And Meraki Systems Manager is something you can put on any endpoint, whether it be cell phone, tablet, PC, as really a way to go and track the device, where it is, understand what applications are being installed, or you can push applications to those devices that need to be there in times like this. Maybe we have to push a certain Blackboard application or a certain business relevant application that maybe not have been on that device before, but is necessary to do their jobs. If you ask the user to do that, you're going to be met with probably a few IT phone calls of questions, and you're building out documents. Well, what if we could just have that application pushed to those devices from the head end, and the IT staff just says, yes, send this to all of my tablets, or yes, send this application need to all of my PCs, and Systems Manager can help do that. And there's a lot of other capabilities that it brings to the table, and really is another avenue, and like Tom said, a arrow in your quiver to add to your environment, where you can layer that into things like Duo for multi-factor. You can add that in for device resource management. So accessing resources, ensuring the resources of things you have in your house are connecting as securely as possible. But one other thing that I think is important, and maybe I'll even throw it to Carol, I see him on the line here, loss of data. Because if I start using my home PC, how do I ensure that that has all the right backups and capabilities for things that I bring into my office? Maybe I have that VPN and I bring it in. Well, what if I have to make sure that that data is not compromised? And I need to back that up. So in case something did happen, as more and more devices that we don't control get onto our networks, you may be prone to, as even Bobby mentioned, clicking on those phishing links. And maybe something slips through the crack because not everything's 100% foolproof. And maybe sometimes you're met with a degree of, ransomware, or something did get infected to a device that you didn't own as a corporation because they were using their home PC. So looking at data backups as just another conversation point to say, well, are we bringing these users into our environments? Yeah. Are we making sure that those devices, as they go out in the field, don't have any compromises and don't lose all that sensitive material? we can start talking about how data backups and applications to do that can really bring into those conversations.
Now, with the schools though, I mean, are they running into issues with not having the finances at this particular point in time to purchase a lot more product that people can take home, or businesses run into the same issue where they might not have budgeted for a large number of laptops to be sent out? I know Bonnie was able to join us here. Bonnie, can you speak to that a little bit as far as what Ingram can help with on that side?
Absolutely. So hi everyone, this is Bonnie Duncan, and I'm the Senior Program Manager for our Systems Business Unit, and we have a lot of options for supporting laptops, desktops, and solutions. And in this unique position that we're all in right now, work from home, I think America has done a really good job of showing how well we can adapt. But the technology is there to help us with that, and programs are there to help us afford it. And I'm going to start off with, from an Ingram perspective, we have a unique program that we've been offering for a couple of years now called our Technology as a Service rental program. And traditionally, this has been a 12-month minimum term program offering flexibility beyond that term, giving your customer control over their refresh strategy and how much they spend on that device. And it all comes at a savings. So it ends up looking really good for the customer in the long run. In light of the positions that we're in right now, this emergency work from home strategies that everyone's adopting, we've been able to shorten that minimum term to a 6-month cycle and offer that flexibility so that our customers can continue to rent longer than that 6 months if they choose to, or even utilize that time as a strategy for returning devices and maybe even upgrading devices as they go. So how this program works, a lot like what you're talking about right now, you're going to put the entire solution together, put the kit components together that your customers need, even right down to who needs what. You can still utilize our configuration services, our professional services, digital transformation services as needed for your opportunity, and we can wrap that entire thing into this 6, 12, 18, 24 month, 36 month, you name it, anywhere up to 60 months, we can build that into a financial program for you, incorporating all those components. Our partners who are offering managed services have the option to include their managed services in that single invoice that our customers are receiving. That's one of the biggest parts of our program that we're really proud of, is a single invoice program. In the world we're in right now, our customers have a lot to worry about already, and multiple invoices coming at them doesn't need to be one of them with this program.
Thank you. And one of the things I'd like to also do before we're wrapping up here is just to go around the horn real quick and have everybody give a little tip that they have found from working at home that might help the people that are on this call. Dan, you actually want to start?
I'm sorry, Matt, you want us to do what?
Just provide a tip to everybody, something that you've realized from working at home that people could benefit from. So in my particular case, it was the networking piece and trying to come up with a solution on the back end to try to mitigate that and have something that I can do in case that happens again. Also, like I've got pets in the background that may be disruptive, so wearing the headset is very helpful in that particular case. But just a quick tip that pretty much everybody could use when they're working from home, whether it be in their day-to-day or on their video or whatever it may be.
Stay safe. I mean, from a technology standpoint, just keep your guard up for emails that look suspicious, even from a corporate standpoint, or if you are using your personal email to communicate with other associates, just be aware that things that may look normal do have a way to sneak by even technology guards, but you are your best defense in some of those cases to say, hey, that does look out of place. Maybe that's something I shouldn't click on, especially as we look at our resources now coming from a lot of different directions that maybe once was only coming through a corporate standpoint. So just keep your guard up, be diligent in keeping security as a top of mind conversation.
Interesting. I'll chime in. Since I cover security, the first thing I'm thinking of right now is optimizing my workplace and making sure my audio is good, making sure I have a spot that I could do a presentation from. Since I got security covered myself already, but that's one of the things that I wanted to make sure. Like I switched audio devices yesterday and then switched back, to make sure I had the best one for whatever type of setup. So audio, video, those type of things, where you're working. Luckily, I have a little dedicated room I'm in. It's kind of nice, but not everyone has that. But those are a couple of points too.
Yeah, Tom, I'll chime in too on the collaboration side. Just use the technology. If you're one of those, workers that are just getting, acclimated to working from home or working remote, this is what these tools and these technology is designed for. Turn your video on, of course. And also what we've seen a lot of companies do, as well as, us here at Ingram Micro, we've started, morning coffee, virtual coffee roundtables. And I've seen some companies do virtual happy hours on a Friday at 5 o'clock where everybody jumps on and turns their video on and, keeping it, HR compliant, doing virtual type meetups that way. So just something to keep the communication open, keep it fresh and keep it new. The other thing too is I know a lot of us are really busy with trying to support customers and partners and the likes. Just take some time, right? Working from home, it's often tough to take some time away because you're so ingrained in doing that and completing that work. But take a half hour for lunch, go for a walk and take some time just to clear your head and then come back and focus. It's what I find is my hardest problem is to not give myself time and just stay ingrained into meeting and satisfying my customers and the people I'm working with. But it really helps to clear your mind sometimes, especially during midday.
Yeah, to add on to that, keep some normalcy. One of the things, and this doesn't apply to me, but they said to shave in the morning. Make sure that you're taking a shower. Make sure you're wearing pants. All of this stuff that we're kind of used to having this kind of routine to start the day, and it kind of even a cup of coffee, even before you have your cup of coffee, you kind of get get into work mode. And one thing I've actually really learned from doing this for a while, and kind of seeing, my kids go through it, and then my wife go through it as well sometimes, is just the transition and just being able to get them into kind of work mode, to be able to have some normalcy, like Chris said, put schedules together. Even if you're just filling up your Outlook with, just times that aren't necessarily meetings, but for your own benefit, where you have a little chime that comes up that says, hey, I'm going to work on this for this amount of time. And on the other side, if you have coworkers that aren't used to working from home, check up on them, whether it's through the technology or just picking up the phone. This is hard times for everyone. Not everyone, is necessarily dealing with it directly, but everyone needs help. So we're all in this together, and this is definitely something that take it from a company perspective, that everyone is going through this, the whole world is going through this, and we can all work. We can't hold hands doing it, ironically, but we can basically virtually hold hands going through this whole thing together.
One last thing that I'll chime in on and add is if you have kids or you have loud dogs, get yourself a good noise canceling headset.
I can jump in too here. So, just adding to everything, everyone has really good points. And, one of the things Bobby jumped on too is, start your day off right, keep your routine normal, and give yourself breaks throughout the day. And I heard a really good tip yesterday from one of my coworkers who needed to adjust to a work from home mid last year. And one of the things he did to mentally trigger an association of this is the end of my day, I'm stepping out of my room, and it's time to go into my home life now. He actually has a lamp sitting next to his desk, and so when he turns that lamp off, that's his mental trigger that, you know, time to turn the work brain off and go into your personal. And so don't forget to keep that work-life personal balance available. We all think we're going to automatically have it more easily sitting at home. But the fact is, it's right there, and we're all really dedicated. So we're just dying to get a few things done. And next thing you know, a few hours has gone by. So
I can attest to that one.
yeah.
For you, Matt, wired networking when you can, wireless only when you have to.
That's true.
And everybody needs another monitor at home.
Yeah.
True. Yeah. That's like, I have a second one set up, and even just for presenting. So, I mean, if I have the presenting slides up, it's really, it wants to share full screen. So if I've got those up, I can't really see anything else if I'm only on one monitor. So by having that up there, it really helps.
Amazon is still delivering. Ingram is still delivering. And yeah, we're all doing a great job.
And I'd just like to say, like, if you need any more information on any of these things we've discussed, I know we've covered them in very, very high detail. So we haven't really gone in depth on any of these because there's so many things out there that Ingram and Cisco can help you guys with. So if you want a more detailed discussion on any of these topics, please reach out to us. The easiest way is just btc@ingrammicro.com, and then it'll get forwarded over to the right person. But I will be sending out that detailed sheet with everybody's contact information and also the links for Cisco's resources on all these different products as well, and their response to these things that are happening right now. And I know we're not currently in the office right now, but if you ever do want to take a look at our BTC environment or Business Transformation Center, feel free to do so. You can do that at your own leisure. You can actually go to this website here, and you'll actually be able to take a virtual walkthrough of the center. So we are, as of right now, nobody's in the office there, but you're more than welcome to do it. If you'd like us to do a walkthrough with you and kind of show you, feel free to reach out for that as well. We can use this virtual tour to help you check out what's in the office. And thank you everybody for joining. Thank you to my panelists and all their great information. I know there's a lot of knowledge out there between all of us. So I really appreciate you all getting on the phone with me today and video with me today to really help our customers.
Thanks, Matt.
Thanks, Matt.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Everyone.